Hey, we're all done almost. So, thank you much for doing the final exams. Mesh and Shushan must be outside. I'll give it to them. What'd you think? Yeah? Thumbs up, everybody's okay? Okay. Hope the reflection question didn't take people by surprise. Something we didn't talk about too much in class, but something that I hope you learn about on your own. I thought it was important. But anyway, here's what I want to, actually, I'll stand. So here's what I want to do at the very end. Let's finish things off with a couple of things. So some things I want to talk about, what I hope that you've gotten out of the class. I want to talk about what I've learned this term. If there is a next time, I want to talk about some things I might do next time, and then just sort of what else is there out with Java, because there's much more than what you learned in this 8 weeks. So I hope you've learned a couple of things in this class. I hope you've gotten an appreciation for the Java programming platform. It's more than just a language, more than just a bunch of APIs. It's much more than just applets. I don't know how much experience you've had with object-oriented programming and object orientation, but I hope this built on whatever you had, or maybe introduced you to some new concepts, showing how you can use objects to model your topics and concepts in your program. And that maybe compared to some of the other things you've seen in C++, when it's done well, it's much more usable. I hope you've also got an appreciation for testing, right? We saw a lot of test-driven development here. All of your projects, including even your UI project, had automated tests. And I feel that's really important because that's how we build software these days. And so I want to expose you to that. I hope you've learned, or at least got an appreciation for what testing can do for you. You've learned a lot in these last 8 weeks, and you've been exposed to some things you probably haven't seen before. So, new tools like Maven and the command line, lots of stuff in IntelliJ. Hope you've also learned how to navigate through an API. We saw a lot of new APIs, everything ranging from some things that might have been familiar, like the Java collections, to the servlet API, to things like Hamcrest, even some Mockito, and of course GWT. And I hope you've also got an appreciation for the fact that software development it's a team sport, right? We do this together. Yep, there was a lot of time on your own, certainly for your projects. That has to be your own work. But here in class, we work together. Whether it was me up here, showing you what I know, or you guys collaborating to leverage what you know as individuals to develop something bigger than what you could do on your own. Fundamentally, I hope that you've learned new skills for solving problems, right? It's what we do in our profession. It's why we get paid. So everything from looking at often incomplete and poorly written specification and deriving code from it. Knowing what questions to ask, knowing when to get started early, and thinking about how to work in your projects. Hope you've learned how to write stable and reusable code. I mean, think about it, right? Stuff that you wrote in the very first week, you're still working with in your last project, even though the project itself has evolved quite a lot. I hope you've learned to use your words to talk about the software that you're writing through documentation, through the POAs, through the conversations that we've had in email and on the community. And also, I know some of you have learned this one, the benefit of doing it right the first time, right? So if something wasn't, if your command line parsing was like really complicated at the beginning, it probably gets even more and more complicated. And so I know some of you guys have really gone through and then optimized things, fixed things that you might have seemed like a good idea in the first week. By the fourth or fifth week, realized there was a better way of doing it. Gone are the days where you have a single textbook that you can learn from, or a single professor. I know a lot of you, look to Stack Overflow or did Google searches and stuff to get your questions answered. That's important. That's how we do our jobs now. There's no harm in it. And then also fixing the problems when they occur. Whether that's writing a unit test that fails and then getting it to work, or realizing that you have to have a really solid project 2 before going to project 3. So that's what I hope you got out of the course. Here's what I've learned from teaching this summer. 60 students is a lot. As a matter of fact, I think it's too much. So while I enjoyed teaching you and hope you learned a lot, I don't know if I can scale, even with 2 graders, to supporting all 60 of you. I think there were a number of times where I feel I didn't get the feedback back to you guys fast enough. And really, the thing about 60 students is that we have to have this classroom and not the classroom that I'd like to have. So anyway, so if I teach again, I'm going to ask for an enrollment cap of 50 so that we can use the room I think works best for the course. But that being said, I enjoyed, for those of you who came to class, thank you very much. I appreciate the interaction. I thought it was, I enjoyed working on code with you, seeing your code, and helping contribute to it. But what did you guys think? The in-class. I've reversed the class. It's maybe different from your other lectures. Does this format work for you? Is this something that we should continue? Yeah, kind of, sort of. Some yes, some no. Yeah, it's different, isn't it? And that's on purpose. As much as I like hearing the sound of my own voice, you guys get bored with it after a while. So I'm continuing to tweak it. I've got some ideas for how we can make it a little bit more effective in the future. Recording the screencast for class, that's super easy for me. I hope that those of you who weren't able to come to class or whatever were able to at least watch the screencast to capture a little bit of the magic that we experience here live. And Google Plus, even though it's not the best social networking tool, I think it works pretty well. It lets us all communicate in a way that's easier to deal with than email, and isn't Facebook, because that would be creepy. So, yeah. So, if I'm asked to offer it again, and by the way, I reached out to the department about teaching it again in the winter. Haven't heard back yet, but I know it's like a busy time of year and everything. But if you'd like to see this course offered more than once a year, I encourage you to reach out to people in the department that might be able to make that happen. So the next time, if we offer the course again, I want a different room. This room actually worked well for this format, but the room, I don't remember which one it is. It's in Fab. It's on the ground floor. It's got these cameras. Projectors around the perimeter. I like that room a lot better because we can do mob programming there. So we can have like 5 people around a projector in addition to pair programming. That whole coding dojo thing we did, I didn't like it. If I'm going to do it again, I have to figure out how to do it better. So hopefully I can get a better room. I'm going to do different katas. The thing we tried this time, I thought it was pretty effective, is I think for that last kata we all wrote the tests together. And I think that's something I will start with next time. And so then we all write the tests together and then get enough tests ready so that you guys can go and implement in pairs. I think both the pair programming and learning TDD at the same time, that's a lot to take on. That's too much cognitive overload, too many new concepts. And I think it'd be more effective if you guys could focus first on implementing and pairing, and then maybe by the second or third kata, have you do test-driven development. I'd like to figure out, actually I heard from a number of you that you are using automated tests, you are writing unit tests and doing test-driven development. That's super awesome. I'd like to figure out how to encourage, maybe force you guys to do more unit tests. I need to figure that out though, because I don't know what the proper measurement is. Because code cover doesn't seem right, and just like raw number of unit tests, I don't know how to gauge that. So maybe I should just make it so you can submit your tests, and I'll see how well you do. Another idea I had, and this is to help the class scale, because a lot of those questions that I got, or a lot of like the resubmits on the projects, were things like, I didn't parse the command line correctly, or I didn't know what to output. And then if I provided like a reference implementation for the projects where you can, somehow send a command line or something that looks like a command line. Here are the arguments. Tell me what the output should be. I think that might help reduce the number of sort of like oops resubmits. So I'll think about that. And then finally, GWT. I heard some good things like, hey, it's fun, I get to write a UI, but like, who's going to use GWT anymore? And so then I want to use something that's relevant. And I'm thinking Android, but A, I need to learn more about Android, and B, I need to figure out how we can do Android in like 3 weeks. Because there's a lot there. But maybe once I understand it better, I'll figure out what the little bit of the lot is that we should be focusing on. So that's what's next with me. What's next with Java? There's all sorts of other stuff out there. So if you are working with relational databases, there's an API called JDBC, and there's all sorts of frameworks and stuff built on top of that for doing nice and easy persistence and stuff. A gazillion web frameworks out there. Actually, those are kind of out of date now. There's even more stuff, although these days there's not too much Java stuff that actually generates stuff for the front end. It's more like everybody's using JavaScript and then web services implemented in languages like Java. But there's lots of stuff to learn about there. And then web services, things like JSON or SOAP that you'll encounter when having two processes talk to each other using standard data protocols. All sorts of good stuff out there, and Java works with all of that. The stuff coming on the horizon, Java 9 is coming, as usual, a couple years late, but that's okay. I think it'll be worth the wait. There's this big new feature called Modularity. Probably not relevant for this class. It's more like, okay, once you've learned the language, learned how to do stuff, then we need to package for your application. You can use Modularity, but there are also a lot of other things. I'm not sure there's really much anything significant changing in the language, but remember the stream APIs from the Java 8 and everything? They're adding some nice things to make that even more easy to use and more powerful. So that's super cool. And then if you're curious about some of the basically standard Java-related standards that are out there, there's something called the JCP, the Java Community Process, which is where groups of enthusiasts and people who care about Java and Java APIs will get together and propose standard APIs. These are things like the people that write the servlets API. I bet they're a fun bunch. Someone's got to do it, and it's those dudes. So you can find out about it, and dudettes. You can find out about that URL. Another thing that's interesting, the Java language itself. I mean, Java 8 helped a lot, sort of, extend the life and the relevancy of the language. But people have realized that even though Java language, is getting kind of old and is kind of clunky in places, lots of boilerplate, and until they had Lambda support, it was kind of hard to do functional programming. But they realized that JVM, wow, that's really cool, right? So you get this runtime environment supported on a whole bunch of platforms. If I want to implement a language, it makes sense to implement it on top of the JVM so that I don't have to write the bulk of the runtime and I get all this cross-platform stuff. So there's a language called Groovy, which is basically, it's a lot like Java, but a lot of the sort of boilerplate syntax has been shaved off the language. And so that's a nice, easy, it's more like a scripting language, doesn't have to be strongly typed and stuff like that. And so that's a nice language for Java programmers to learn. There's also a language called Scala, which is sort of a hybrid of functional languages and object-oriented languages that offer some really nice features for highly concurrent programs so that you can take advantage of all your CPUs and maximize performance. There's also an implementation of Ruby called JRuby, which works on the Java VM. And then for those of you who are big fans of Lisp, and let's face it, who's not, there's a language called Clojure. Although, boy, if I were like Danish, how would I say that? Clojure? Anyway, yeah, right. I'll put a J in the middle of it. Anyway, so if like Lisp is your thing and you want to run on a whole bunch of different platforms or interact with Java code from your Lisp, you can use Clojure. Other things. My employer, Tripwire, is a member of the PSEP co-op program. I know that most of you guys are pretty far into the program. Maybe if you're not, or if you know someone who is sort of at the CS300 level. We're part of PSEP. We are looking for interns through that program. And so let's see here. I guess coming up in October, we'll start recruiting our next batch of interns. And so then in January, you can be working with me. Doesn't that sound great? Okay. Yeah. Maybe that's not so much a draw. Working near me maybe is out of smell distance. Anyway, but so some of the things that we learned in here, working on big Java projects, working with tools like GitHub and IntelliJ, doing test-driven development, a little bit of pair programming, and all of that good stuff. We do that at work, and so then you could do that with me. If you want to find out, go talk to Warren Harrison, and there's also really my communication about that there. And that's it. So. I wanted to thank you. It's been an exciting and busy 8 weeks. I've enjoyed teaching all of you and getting to know many of you and interact with you on the community and in email. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. And so let's see here. To finish off, thank you for all the Project 5 submissions. I'm sort of working through them all now, making sure they compile. If there's, we won't actually be grading them until Friday or the weekend or whatever. But if there's anything that the submission was messed up, I'll try to get you feedback as early as possible there. Oh, please! I guess it's maybe it's a little late now. There's the survey that's on D2L. It counts as a quiz grade, so please be sure to do that. And then also PSU has some sort of online survey feedback thing. Please fill both of those out. The survey is important to me for direct feedback, and then the PSU one, of course, is what the department looks at, which will help determine whether or not they offer the course again. So please, I appreciate your honest feedback on both. Okay, and now we've got the oral part of the final exam. Oh, there's a document camera here. I'm going to try to use it. I'm going to stop the video though because I don't think we need to have anybody see this.